are going to be talking about building your own power team. First off, we got to know, okay, who's even part of your power team, right? Then we're going to be talking about, okay, how do we manage the team so that we know who are the high performers, who are not. A big key there is knowing your KPIs. These are called your key performance indicators. And every business should have this. I've yet to meet a high performer that doesn't track their KPIs, right? This was the big transformation for myself when I was running some of my other businesses, whether it was the lawn care business, back in insurance investment business, early start in real estate investing, and now on the coaching side, we got the contracting as well, and got a little bit of a private equity that we've been working on, just kind of on the acquisition side there. Big thing that really changed not just my own levels of high performance, but my teams as well, was having KPIs, right? Without KPIs, I would not actually confidently call myself a high performer because I didn't really know what I was tracking in the business. That's going to be key, right? So if your goal is actually to be a high performer, or maybe even if you just want to start real estate investing and getting into the game, it's not a bad idea to actually track your key performance indicators. First, today we're going to talk about who's part of that team. We're going to talk about key performance indicators. But before we even jump into all that, we're actually going to talk about why having a power team is important. And the main key here is that it's going to save you time and then money in the long run, right? Because you got to know how to actually use your time properly, right? I see this all the time where like business owners, especially when they're new, they try to do everything. And something that I learned was that the main thing that you should be doing, it might not even be the actual fulfillment or production of your business. I like that stuff because I'm naturally a born teacher. I actually like the coaching side. I like the property management, like dealing with people. It's one of my strengths. That being said, it might not be your strengths. So to start, what you actually want to do is called a daily audit. I've gone in, a couple of the students already have done this, but this is key of getting that meta view of like, okay, what's actually part of your zone of genius, right? So how do you actually do a daily audit? So you kind of see, so I pull this back. I have a notepad here. All you're going to do, you can start this over the next 3 days, is every 20 minutes, you can go as far as every 15 minutes. If you set an alarm on your phone, if you're still working, you want to make sure that maybe that's silent, it's just on vibrate. And then you're just jotting down every 20 minutes to 15 minutes. What is it exactly that you find yourself doing at that time? As you do this over the course of 3 days, preferably it's going to be 2 work days, maybe 1 day off. Now I know we're on Tuesday right now, so it's probably going to be 3 work days. This is going to give you a meta view of like, okay, what are the things that you should be doing? What are the things that maybe you should not be doing? Once you've done that over the course of 3 days, you'll have 3 full days where you actually broke down what is it you're spending your time on? What is non-productive? What serves you? What no longer serves you? Once you've done that, you're going to have all these tasks. All the tasks that you've done, what I've learned to do is you turn each of these tasks into a job. Okay. Maybe you spend some time generating leads. Well, what's the title of that job? Lead generator. Maybe you did some strategic networking, and what's that job? It's going to be being the networker. Maybe you actually sat down and did some sales calls, whether that's for wholesales or maybe you're actually selling a product or service that is what I like to call real estate adjacent as a business. Okay, well, that's going to be the sales position, right? As you do this, you're going to see all the tasks that you found yourself doing, and then all of the jobs that are going to be required. Now, in the beginning, I get it, especially if you start from nothing, right? That's where I kind of started. I didn't come from money. So you might not be able to hire these people right away, but at least you know what the job titles are and who are the people that are going to be part of your team later on. Okay? That's going to really help you buy back more time. Once you've done that, then it's up to you to determine what are the tasks that should be eliminated. These are usually tasks that it's not your job. Maybe it's like a minimum wage job and you shouldn't be the one doing that. Like I don't knock on doors anymore, right? I actually partner up with other wholesalers and do what's called co-wholesaling, where, hey, they have teams, they're the ones going out there finding deals. I'm just building a buyer's list. And hey, if you bring me a deal, I'll connect to my buyer's list. I only want half of the full wholesale amount. I'm just doing half the work, right? I'm good at that part. I'm good at being the marketer. You can be good at knocking on doors if you like, right? Now, I do suggest to some new students, especially if you're starting from nothing, door knocking could be very important and effective in your business. For myself, I'm way better to just network and then connect with people online. That's how I built my business. It might not work for you, but then at the same time, I've also built a power team to accomplish that. And that's something we're going to be talking about later. But essentially, the easiest part is once you've done this 3-day audit, is determine, okay, what do I need to eliminate? What are tasks that I should not be doing? Okay. From there, then you can kind of look at, okay, what are some tasks that I could be delegating? Okay. This is a big key, especially if you want that location and time freedom. Like right now, I'm in Alberta, and I purposely did this knowing that I have 2 vacancies. Well, now I have 1 vacancy because we've been able to fill it. And this forces me to have to delegate, have to automate. It would have been easier to just stay in Winnipeg during the first few weeks of October, because technically with Alliance, I only need to be in Winnipeg when we have these Alliance networking events. I have a speaking engagement there, got to connect with them, and being the president and principal, I got to physically be there, right? And I want to be there. That being said, I could have just stayed in Winnipeg, but I wanted to spend time with my girlfriend who's out here in Alberta, even if it would have been a little bit more difficult to delegate and automate these tasks. I could have easily just done the showings myself. I actually like doing that stuff. That being said, by being physically not in Winnipeg, I have no choice but to delegate and automate this work. So what does that mean? That means that, hey, if I'm doing a showing, well, I got to make sure I have a property manager there. I got to contact them. I got to work with any maintenance people. So I got maintenance people cleaning up one of the properties. They're actually direct in contact with the previous tenant who has kind of been a little bit annoying, let's say. They're still at that property, just dealing with transition of their own property. But I have trustworthy people that are part of the maintenance team dealing with that, right? I don't want to be the one cleaning per se, but I want to delegate that away. Who can I hire? Who can I put into that position to take care of that job? That's all about what delegating is. And one of my coaches really tells me and like basically keeps me accountable to any task that's under $500 an hour. I should not be doing that. I should just be delegating that. I got another coach who's a little bit further ahead, and he's really pushing me any task under $1,000 an hour. I should be delegating that out. Okay. What does that leave me to do? That leaves it to raising capital, creating income sources, finding leads. Those are really the only 3 tasks, and then some strategy stuff that we have there. Again, you might not be there just yet, but have that concept in mind that if it's not worth your time, you should be looking at delegating that. And I get it. It's hard at first. It costs a little bit of money up front, but you will be getting your time back, assuming you're actually using that time productively or you're doing something that's filling up your cup. Like for myself, I'm not making money hanging out with my girlfriend, but it fills my cup. It allows me to realize, okay, this is why I'm doing this. I want to start a family at some point soon. And this allows me to build up those skills to delegate that work. Now with automations is another key point of what you could be putting tasks towards and then automating that. I love to use ManyChat. I've paid a ton of money to learn how to use ManyChat. I've even delegated creating my own bots. If you're contacting me like in the middle of the morning, Winnipeg time, well, that's probably not me messaging you back within like 10 seconds. That's going to be a bot, full transparency. It just allows us to help more people, right? I'm still in my DMs, especially on like peak times, because lead generation is actually one of those high income skills when it comes to marketing. So I'll actually still do that because that's what brings us leads. That's what brings us deals, potential money partners, potential investors, even connecting with owners now that I'm trying to move to the acquisition side, right? So with that, you've gone through a day audit. You've figured out, okay, what are the tasks that you're doing? What's worth your time? What's not worth your time? You've given titles to all the jobs that are necessary in the future of your business. Once you've done that, now we can start building your power team because these are going to be the people you want on the team first and foremost, especially if your goal is to become a real estate investor. So, who are these people on that power team? Hope you guys have pen and paper. We'll be talking about that right now. Again, if you have comments, questions, drop them in the chat. I'll probably answer them near the end. But if something pops up, so you don't forget, type them in there. It's not going to distract me. Don't worry about that. But for your power team, main one is going to be you got to have someone who's a lead generator. Even if that's going to be your main job in the beginning, you still will probably want people generating leads for you. Okay. You're going to want an appraiser. Okay. Most likely, you don't have an appraiser license, so you can't do that job. But it's important. Next, you're going to want a mortgage broker. Then you're going to want a lawyer, an insurance agent, and then a realtor. Okay. I would also add a contractor in there. Now, you could always find a contractor after, but at least have one contractor, if not three, that you can work with. Then you're also going to want to connect with wholesalers, depending what business model you're using for real estate. If you're already wealthy and you're just parking money as buy and hold, you're probably not watching this video and this training. Maybe you are. But in that case, maybe you don't need to connect with wholesalers. But for the most part, if you're a flipper, if you're using the Burr method, if you yourself are wanting to be a wholesaler, wholesalers should be part of your team. So those are the people that you're going to want on your team. Now, with each one, they're going to have specific KPIs that you want to track to make sure you're actually working with A players on your team. So we're going to go through this one by one, essentially. And first part is we're going to talk about the lead generators. Okay. In real estate investing, your lead generators are going to save us as the investors so much time because now we can scale basically right away because they're the ones out there starting conversations that can lead to more deals, more money partners, more investors, more opportunities. And what you actually want to track is how many conversations are started and then what's the actual lead conversion into a booked call. And when I mean a book call or an appointment, it could be for a private lead. Maybe you're actually meeting with the seller and they're facilitating that. Or maybe it's with a money partner and they're facilitating that. Now, these lead generators, they're probably not going to be the ones actually jumping on that call, right? It is probably going to be you in the beginning. And even as you grow, there's something I've learned. I've been lucky enough to meet 2 billionaires in my life. And the person coaching me right now, when it comes to the private equity and the full-on generational wealth of 7 generations deep, he's worked with basically a trillionaire. And your sales and marketing is probably going to be mainly focused that you're doing that. The reason why is no one's going to care about your business more than you do, right? I use lead generators and I have them on my power team. It's a mix of having a bot as a lead generator. I have people overseas that are lead generators. And I have basically people that I train to become content creators slash DM closers that are also generating leads. And all these people get paid differently, right? When it comes to the people that I'm training to become DM closers and lead generators, they actually pay me to train them. And then basically there are people that also want to build a brand, sometimes with a completely different business. An example is I have someone who's in the modeling space and he wants to build a brand around that. But on his days off, on his free time, he's doing DMs for me. He's generating leads for me. He's paid full on commission, right? When it comes to overseas people, VAs, virtual assistants, I have a virtual assistant and they're paid a certain amount per month to generate leads, no commission based on that. And then there's also people that, like myself, I'm doing the lead generation. I've also partnered.
So if you're an aspiring real estate investor, or if you're a real estate investor looking to scale past that 6th, 7th, even 10th home, I'd love to help you out. So DM me the word coach. I'll send you more details. And if you are a good fit, I'd love to invite you to do a free real estate strategy session. Love to help you reach those goals. Speed of implementation is key. So DM the word coach and let's get talking and let's get to business.
Partnered with other businesses to generate leads for these deals. Now the KPI there is really, you want to track how many conversations these people are having. Example for myself, right now it's 100 conversations started per day per person. That includes myself, right? You want to know the rules around social media so you don't get banned. An example is if you send over, like, I believe it's 80 DMs in an hour, you might get banned or you might get blocked from sending DMs on Instagram, right? And then what's your lead conversion? Meaning, out of the people that got messaged, how many people actually book a call, right? Depending on how many conversations are started, you're aiming at even like 1 to 20%. Now, there's a big range, and you'll see the gap once you start actually tracking this. I have maybe about a 20 to 15% conversion rate when it comes to me actually DMing people, especially because when I'm actively on it, I'm like fast to the reply, and I'm actually just kind of sniping warm leads, right? I have a lead generator that is closer to like 1 to 4%, right? My lead generator that's on full on commission, he's closer, he's just learning, right? So he's closer to like 1 to 2%, right? The key here is that you want to measure for your lead generation, how much does it cost to acquire client? Now you could call that a cost to acquire an investor if you're trying to find an investor, cost to acquire a client if you're selling a product or service, or a cost to acquire a closed deal, right? How do you actually track that? Well, you want to track, okay, how much money are you actually spending to get one deal that actually closes? So maybe that's your first wholesale. Okay. You want to know that number, because then now, once that's measured, you can actually reduce that cost. Okay. So how do you know when to keep someone, when to fire someone? If you're using this model of having multiple lead generators, the key here is that you want your return on quote unquote ad spend, or your return on marketing. It's called your ROAS, return on ad spend. Even if we're not running ads, I count these DMers as people that are they're kind of a living ad, right? They're DMing for me, they're generating leads for me. Sometimes these lead generators are actually dropping flyers, right? I'll do that mostly in summer. I don't do that in winter. That being said, as long as they're generating leads and there's a positive return on ad spend, in the industry, when it comes to marketing, you're looking at about a 4x. Meaning if you spend $1,000, you should be making 4,000 minimum, right? That's the baseline, okay? If someone drops below that and they are in a non-commission based pay scale, like they're actually getting paid per month, let's say, you got to get rid of them. This is a mistake I've made. I was, let's say, naive in thinking that I could train someone to have an above zero ROAS when they were just like, there are days where this person I used to work with was just not generating leads. And like, I'm not even talking about not converting. I'm talking about not starting conversations. Like I was getting charged 8-hour days and then no one was getting DM'd. Like if I ask you guys, how hard is it to send a message to someone? Be like, hey, do you know anyone interested in possibly selling their home over the next 90 days? You could probably do that right now in the next 5 seconds, right? I was too busy with other things. I wasn't paying attention. And then once I looked at the numbers, there was like multiple days where like 0 leads were getting generated. I was getting charged like basically a full day's work for that. Okay. Unacceptable. I should have known, right? And that's why it's key to actually track these things, because if you don't measure it, you don't know. So that's the first key member of your power team, your lead generator. How do you find these people? The big one is going to be just chatting other investors up that are doing this And it might be key that you go on Fiverr, you advertise on Facebook. I like advertising on Facebook and Instagram just because with lead generators, it's actually pretty easy to train someone. Honestly, you could get someone for free, full on commission, and then just tell them to like watch Alex Hormozy's stuff, like $100 million leads, and they'll get pretty good at it. Now, don't just leave them alone after that. I'd sit down with them every 2 weeks, at least minimum once a month, to show them how to actually generate these leads. You should be the best lead generator on your team, even if you have a power team. Next, we got appraisers. Okay, appraisers are going to be key in your real estate investing business and in this game because they actually allow you to complete refinances. They allow you to actually close deals. They help set up flips for success, meaning you actually get a appraised value before you even done your flip. And then they actually help you unlock HELOCs, home equity line of credits. When it comes to finding appraisers, if you guys are already in the Alliance ecosystem, we got appraisers in the team, so you can ask that. But if you don't have a good appraiser, honestly, connect with other real estate investors and then ask for referrals. All right. Referrals are great because you know, especially if that real estate investor is already successful, you know that they're working with a good appraiser. All right. The KPI used for appraisers is really how much time does it take to complete an appraisal from the moment you message them or call them or email them to the moment it's finished and you got the appraisal document in hand. My best appraisers will actually get this done in 1 to 3 days. And 3 days is slow, right? 3 days is like they're booked up, they need time. 1 day is amazing. Like I'll be like, hey, email them in the morning. Hey, can I get this appraisal done? I set up a lot box. They have systems in place. They just go in there. I don't even need to be at the place. I have only been to one of my appraisals this for my whole career. And I've probably gotten over 27 homes appraised already. I'm usually not there. I have a lockbox set up. I let them go. I'm still checking if their appraisals are legit in the sense of I want to see what comparables they're using. That being said, the key performance indicator of a good appraisal is like just speed, right? Especially if you're doing a flip, especially if you're doing BRRRRs and you want to get that refinance or the house sold fast, that appraisal is going to be key, especially if you can get it done quick, right? So 1 to 3 days, that's a good amount for an appraisal. Now, if you're in a busy time, sometimes that could take longer. So you don't want to use this as just like a black and white, right? It is a little bit, it's more of a framework that I use. That's kind of what worked for me. Next is mortgage brokers. Mortgage brokers need to be part of your team as your power team as a real estate investor because they will actually help you again, get mortgages, complete refinances, open HELOCs for you, and even shop around for better rates. Big key here is that a balance between new mortgage brokers and then experienced mortgage brokers, right? They both have their pros and cons. I like the new guys because they're hungry. I like the older guys because they're knowledgeable, right? Pros and cons. I use both basically. And the key performance indicator I use to measure their high performance is going to be speed of response time and the time it takes to complete applications. If it's taking them like months to complete an application, something's wrong there. And I've made that mistake in the past, right? I've done it so that an appraisal, sorry, not appraisal, a refinance took well over 6 months after the deal was done, and it kind of ruined the deal for us, basically. It went from possibly becoming like a perfect BRRRR to taking a little bit longer, and it's no longer a perfect BRRRR. It's all good because we tend to keep the properties. The goal is to keep them for the next 25 to 30 years anyway. That being said, should not take that long, right? I've had refinances done in 24 to 48 hours. The fastest I've done a refinance was applications and documents were signed by Friday afternoon, Monday, next day, or sorry, Monday and then the next following week, we already had the money in our account. Okay. Speed of response time is key. Okay. I find that when mortgage brokers are slow to respond, then they're usually not the best, right? Reason for that is they might not be prioritizing your deal. They might just not know what's going on either, right? Especially with the new guys. Like new guys, you can assume they don't have that much of a client list, then they should be very quick to response. Okay.
The knowledge I had with real estate wasn't that great, and that's when I knew I needed a mentor to guide me through the steps of minimizing my mistakes and obtaining property. It kept me accountable with the limited time I had after the long hours at work. It taught me things I wouldn't have learned without a mentor.
Thank you to Patrick. Big help, taught me pretty much everything ever since I started. So big shout out to Patrick and Alliance.
Nice. Yeah, Nick's an action taker, so we can help guide you, but you still got to do work, and Nick is a testimonial for that.
Sure.
And thank you again, Patrick, for this program. It changed my life. It changed my mindset. It changed everything. That was the best six weeks of my life.
I just want to give a shout out to my man Patrick. Just honestly been one of the best teachers that I've ever had.
It's a very informative course. Patrick works with you one-on-one, so if there's any questions or anything you might be doubting or you're uncertain of, he'll definitely be there to help. Honestly, highly suggest this course. It's taught me a lot through my journey.